Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Sports Corner at Choose Adventure Media. My name is Zach, and in today's live stream, I am going to be doing a Week 12 preview. So I will briefly touch on some other big games around the country. I'll be touching on Alabama, Oklahoma. I'll be touching on USC taking on Iowa at home, and I'll be talking about Pitt taking on Notre Dame. That's where College Game Day is this week. And then I'm going to get into a deep dive of the Oregon-Minnesota game, keys to the game, things to watch, key statistics, and then I will wrap this up by giving my prediction. As always, please let me know in the comments, what are you most looking forward to this weekend? What games? How do you guys think the Ducks are going to do this weekend? What do you guys think about the playoff rankings? So let's dive right into it. The first game I want to get into is the Oklahoma Sooners are traveling to Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa, Alabama to take on the Crimson Tide. This is obviously a very big SEC clash, a lot of playoff stakes on the line. Both teams are currently in the top 12 of the playoff rankings. Both teams have one loss, so a second loss it could ultimately knock them out of the playoff race, as particularly Oklahoma. Or Oklahoma actually has two losses. So I think there's a couple of key storylines here. Number one is it's at Bryant-Denny Stadium. I think that's a big factor, particularly with the Oklahoma Sooners offense struggling so much, and the Alabama defense being the weakness of the team. It's going to be a very interesting matchup. You're going to have strength on strength whenever the Alabama Crimson Tide are on offense against the Oklahoma Sooners defense, and then you're going to have weakness on weakness when you have the Crimson Tide defense, which has been hindered by injuries all season long, taking on the Oklahoma Sooners offense, which was explosive, up until the middle of September, and then obviously whenever John Mateer broke his hand, the offense has struggled a little bit, and he just hasn't gone back to that form. I think he's thrown 2 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions since he's come back at the Red River rivalry. So pretty disappointing. He looked really promising to start the year. He's a very exciting player. He's a gamer. He has a great scrambling ability. I think he scrambled for 80 yards in Oklahoma's last game against Tennessee, and that was huge in that big win at Neyland. So this game, while Oklahoma's offense has struggled, John Mateer has single-handedly kind of carried that team. They haven't been able to run the ball. Maybe they get that going against this Alabama defense. I actually could see that, especially with later in the Tennessee game, some holes were opening up. So I could see that would be a big X factor, is if Oklahoma can somehow get their run game going that they haven't been able to do all year, kind of take off some of the pressure on John Mateer having to drop back and pass 40 times in the game. That would really work in Oklahoma's favor. I think Oklahoma does have the defense to slow down Ty Simpson and the Alabama Crimson Tide, particularly since Alabama hasn't been able to run the ball very well this year. And Oklahoma's pass defense looked really vulnerable against Tennessee, so that's a big opportunity. So Oklahoma absolutely has to avoid turnovers. They don't have the explosive offense that they had in the beginning of the year, so they can't make up for turning the ball over and letting Alabama get free points. And then Alabama's run game, Alabama's going to have to get something going, or that Oklahoma front seven is just going to be able to pin their ears back against Ty Simpson. So it's absolutely critical for Alabama to get somewhat of a run game going, even if it's just a few yards a carry, to take some of that pressure off of Ty Simpson. Ultimately, I think that Alabama does carry this one out, or does win this one. Give me the Crimson Tide. I think they win something like a 28-17. I just don't think Oklahoma's able to put up enough points. I haven't seen them have enough weapons on the outside or been able to get a consistent enough run game to score more than 17 against Alabama, particularly at Bryant-Denny. So then USC is taking on the Iowa Hawkeyes at home. Obviously, Ducks fans, we know that the Hawkeyes are a challenging team. We just played them last week, and then the Ducks will play USC next week at Autzen. So this is a really interesting game for Ducks fans to watch, because it's a great indicator of how the Ducks are going to do against USC next week. Arguably the Ducks' biggest game of the year after that Indiana game. So a couple of key storylines here. Iowa's run game identity, they were not able to run the ball against the Ducks at all. And that ultimately obviously really cost them. And then Iowa wasn't able to stop the run. Before the Oregon game, Iowa was a top 10 rush defense in the entire country. And then Oregon put up over 200 rushing yards on the Hawkeyes at home. So that was really big in helping the Ducks get the win over the over the Hawkeyes in Kinnick. So that's going to be huge. The run game has been an extremely pivotal part of USC's offense this year. It doesn't matter who they put back there. They have their third or fourth string running back right there. And I think he's averaging over 100 yards a game. King Mack is very talented. They have a lot of talented weapons on that team at wide receiver. They have Jacoby Lane and Makai Lemon. So very talented team. But Iowa's defense is extremely talented. And so this is going to be USC's biggest test defensively since that tough Illinois loss earlier on in the year. Except the key to Illinois having success against USC earlier on in the year was they were able to push USC off the ball. They were just flat out more physical than USC was and were able to run the ball down their throat. And that helped open up opportunities for Luke Altmaier in the passing game. And I really think that that's kind of going to happen this game. As Ducks fans, we saw what happened last week with Mark Gronowski. They wanted to run the ball, and then they were able to get some tight end wheel routes. They were able to get some opportunities open up in the pass game later on in the game. They're also a very physical team. They're typically very good at running the ball, except Oregon did a phenomenal job of stopping them. So I really think Iowa can go into USC, and I think they can get the win. It's going to be a low-scoring affair. I think if Iowa gives up more than 21 points, I think they lose. So give me the Hawkeyes 24-17. I think they can keep the key is going to be stopping Jaden Maiava and Makai Lemon. I think the Hawkeyes can stop the run, so it's just don't let Makai Lemon, go for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. And the last non-Duck game I want to talk about is the Pittsburgh Panthers taking on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish at home. This has huge playoff implications. And Pitt plays several playoff contenders going down the stretch, and this is just one of them in the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. This is Notre Dame's biggest test in a while. They started their season against Texas A&M and Miami, so huge tests early on. They lost both, but played them both very close. And then ever since then, they've had Boston College and Stanford and, some other non-contenders. So Notre Dame is really fighting to prove that they need meat on their resume. Right now, Notre Dame has nothing on their resume, too much of substance. Ultimately, I think Notre Dame does get quite a bit of bias. So I think if they end up winning out 10-2 and going 10-2, I think they make the playoff. But this Pitt team is talented. They started off the year a little slow. They benched their quarterback, and now they're rocking a true freshman quarterback who's looked phenomenal. Pat Narduzzi is an amazing coach for the Pitt Panthers. So this is a dangerous situation, I think, for Notre Dame. And Pitt is dangerous at home. We've seen Clemson struggle there in the past with some of their elite teams. So tough game. Notre Dame's offense has been amazing, and their defense has finally started to catch up, and that's what's helped them get big wins over, some middle-tier opponents. But Pitt's quarterback does have quite a bit of momentum right now, so that's going to be the big matchup to watch is can the Pitt offense keep up with this explosive, absolutely amazing Notre Dame offense? And can CJ Carr in his own right, the quarterback for Notre Dame, can he be consistent enough to help pull out this win on the road? I think he can. I think Pitt, I don't think that they have what it takes to beat this Notre Dame team. So give me Notre Dame 28-17 over Pitt. So now I'm going to get into the Oregon Ducks game. Welcome, everyone. So Oregon is playing tomorrow, Friday Night Lights at Autzen Stadium. Very exciting. They're opening up as a big favorite over Minnesota. I think it's last I saw was a 25.5 point favorite over the Golden Gophers. Yes, so Oregon is a 25.5 point favorite over the Minnesota Golden Gophers at home. This is going to be an interesting game. So Minnesota is effectively Iowa light. And what I mean by that is they play a very similar brand of football, very centered around controlling time of possession. We saw that affect the Ducks a little bit last week, with the Ducks being a more explosive offense versus, this being a more tempo, have these long 18-play drives that can just really suck the wind out of a defense, especially later on in the game. And this is a very disciplined team. So I looked up some statistics earlier. And so Minnesota is actually tied for second fewest penalties per game at 3.22. That could be big. We've seen the Oregon Ducks struggle a little bit with penalties early on in the year. So that could be big. However, Minnesota, they have the 121st ranked rush offense, which is 109.8 rush yards per game. And then Oregon, and then they have the 94th ranked pass offense in the country at 203 yards per game. I think this Oregon defense is going to have a field day. I think this Ducks defense has been the strength of the team all year, and I think they've continued to get better. We saw how dominant they were against the run last week against Iowa. So it's going to be... I think Oregon's defense is going to look phenomenal this game. Minnesota also struggles on third down. They're tied for 81st in the country at 38.6 on offense. Their defense is fine. So they, impressively, they have the 21st ranked rush defense at 108.1 yards per game. However, like I mentioned earlier, Iowa had the 9th ranked rush offense going into their game with Oregon, and Oregon ran for over 200 yards. So I think that's going to be a major key to the game, is Oregon needs to establish the run. I know I've been beating this drum all season long. I know everyone's been saying it. Oregon needs to run the ball, and it's going to set up those opportunities for Dante Moore in play action, set up the down the field passing attack, which Minnesota allows the, over 200 pass yards per game, which is a great opportunity for Dante Moore to kind of have a bounce back game. So now I want to kind of talk about some keys to the game. Like I mentioned, the Ducks need to run the ball. It sets up everything. It helps, wear down the defense later on in the second half. It's the strength of the offensive line. I think it gets the offensive line some confidence, and whenever we're able to run the ball, I think the offensive line is able to pass block better. And I think this offense just functions better when there's the threat of the run, whether it's play action, you can't, you have to load up the box. Will Stein's offense just functions better when the run is established. So I think as long as Will Stein calls a game like he called last week, not like he did against Indiana, I think this team will absolutely cover the 25.5. I think this is a great opportunity for Oregon to get another great resume builder. Even though Minnesota is not the toughest opponent, I think Oregon needs this to pass the eye test. It's going to be a rainy game in Eugene. So again, I think it's going to look very similar to the Iowa game. But the Ducks were able to put up points on Iowa, and this is unfortunately a less talented defense. It's going to be interesting. Another key to the game is, can Dan Lanning get this team ready to go? I think they can. Dan Lanning's proven time and time again that he's great at getting his team ready to play. And last year, Oregon didn't have a problem on their Friday night game against Michigan State. So I think this is a great opportunity for Oregon to get a big win, look good at home. I feel like the last couple of weeks, I feel like Oregon has kind of played with a chip on their shoulder, and that's when Oregon is at their best. So big game for the Oregon Ducks. Let's see what else. I think injuries are going to be big here. So injury management's going to be a very sneaky key to the game. And what I mean by that is we saw the impact of injuries on offense last week. We saw, Gary Bryant Jr. go down early in the game. DeCorian Moore was out. Kenyon Sadiq was out. Alex Harkey was out, which ultimately I thought Janoris Wilson maybe played a little bit better than Alex Harkey. I love Alex Harkey. He's just a little inconsistent. So injuries, it's going to be interesting how this coaching staff handles those injuries. I don't think DeCorian Moore is going to be playing. There's no official word on that. I've just heard they don't think it's season ending for DeCorian, so I doubt he'll be back a week later, particularly on a short week against a Minnesota team. I know that Kenyon Sadiq's injuries kind of been lingering most of the season. So and he was listed as questionable going into the Iowa game, so I wouldn't be surprised if he played. And then Alex Harkey, I heard, was very close to playing against Iowa, so I would expect Alex Harkey back. Again, all of this is speculation. There's been no official injury report out yet. So keys to the game: Oregon must establish the run early. It dictates the pace. It protects Dante more from having to drop back 40 times a game. It helps get the offensive line playing better. Oregon's got to protect the quarterback. Minnesota can actually get after the passer a little bit, and we have seen the games where Oregon's offensive line is able to keep Dante upright are the games that they dominate. When they're not able to keep Dante upright, that's the games that they struggle. Ultimately, it cost them the loss in Indiana, or against Indiana. And then, like I mentioned, mental sharpness on a short week. So short prep week, can Oregon get ready to play, be locked in, be dialed in against a lesser opponent on a short week on a Friday night? That's going to be a key to the game. They did it last year against Michigan State. I think they can do it again. And then we saw last week the impact of special teams and field position. Those two high snaps against Iowa really altered the course of the game. I hate to say that a game was decided by 2 plays. So I'm not saying that those 2 plays decided the game, but they were pivotal in the Ducks ultimately pulling out the win. Field position, obviously the safety, numbers of possessions. So in this key to the game, I'm going to lump in the fact that, it's not just special teams. It's going to be field position. It's going to be penalties, kind of the mental errors that we've seen shoot the Ducks in the foot a little bit this year. Can't happen. The Ducks need to play a clean game, not just to beat Minnesota, but just for the eye test. Hopefully, boost the Ducks in the standings. There's going to be some losses in front of them. There's several teams that have to play each other, whether that's national or conference championship games or in regular season matchups. So this is an opportunity for Oregon to play a clean game, look good against a lesser opponent, and prove that they are one of the best teams in the country. And I think they can do it. I'm going to expect big games from Whittington, Davison, and Deer Hill. If Kenyon Sadiq comes back, he needs to have a big game. And I just want to see Dante Moore continue to play consistently. And if he has an off play, I don't want him to have an off game. I think he did a great job against Iowa he wasn't as aggressive and as comfortable early on, but he got there in the end, and it was pivotal on that last drive with that beautiful pass to Malik Benson on the sideline, one of the prettiest passes I've ever seen. So that's going to be huge, is Dante Moore continuing his development, proving that he is an elite quarterback and does belong in that conversation with one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football. Let's see. I think another big statistic is third down conversion rate. So Oregon is actually ranked 20th in the country at 47.7% on converting third downs on offense. That's going to be huge against a team like Minnesota that just doesn't have the depth that a team like Oregon does have. So if Oregon is able to convert third downs, stay in short yardage situations on third downs, I think that's huge. Like, wear down that defense. So then by the second half, they're able to just push them off the ball, both after dominating the run game and having these long sustained drives. I think that would be a key to the game for the Oregon Ducks. So my ultimate prediction is I think Oregon wins this one big. I think that this is another big, putting the country on notice game for the Ducks. They've kind of played with their food a little bit earlier on this season. They haven't looked like the team that a lot of people thought they were going into the year. Well, at least to the outside world. I think Oregon absolutely is one of the best teams in the country. I think they've played like it for a lot of the year. So I think ultimately Oregon gets the win. I think they're going to make a statement with this game. So look for Dan Lanning to put the pedal to the metal and really try to win big. I think the Ducks win. Give me something like 42-14. This Minnesota offense isn't good at all, and Oregon's defense is really hot right now, and Oregon's ability to run the ball is really dominant right now. So give me the Ducks 42-17 and a big win. So yeah, that's my prediction for the game. That's my predictions earlier on for other games this week. I think it's a positive sign about the playoff rankings that came out earlier this week. Oregon did move up one spot. And we have seen that kind of indicate from the committee that the committee sees games that are upcoming on the schedule, again, whether that's regular season or conference championship games. And we have seen the committee kind of position teams of like, okay, Oregon's moving up. So they're a team that the committee is willing to push up further after some of those teams in front of them lose. So I really think that Oregon is on the up and up. And I think that Oregon needs to have a big game this weekend or tomorrow to continue that streak, continue the committee having positive views of them, dominate statistically for the numbers game, dominate for the eye test, don't have a bunch of stupid penalties, don't have a bunch of stupid errors on special teams. The eye test is huge this weekend for the ultimate playoff rankings. So my question to you guys, do you guys think Minnesota can pull off the upset? How do you guys think this game's going to go? Is the weather going to play a factor? Let me know what you think. And yeah, so with that, I will be going live tomorrow night after the game. And yeah, with that, I hope you guys have a great weekend. I will see you guys tomorrow night after the game. Go Ducks. And as always, please make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. I'll catch you